Hi, everybody. I am the liberal conservative. Welcome back to my second YouTube video. I was a great fan of the conventions, Democratic and Republican, for years. I watched them from beginning to end. As everybody knows, Tuesday was the Democratic convention began. I started watching it, watching the kids singing the God Bless America. And after about 10 minutes, I lost interest because I thought I was watching an infomercial for a product that I had already purchased. And once you kind of look at remember the features of the product you bought, you kind of turn it off and look for something else. So I spent the rest of Monday night watching American Pickers on the History Channel. Probably more entertaining. But I did watch some of the keynote speeches and some of the major speeches or clips thereof, and obviously I watched Joe's speech last night. I thought it was interesting that early in the convention, AOC cast her delegate vote for Bernie, and people say, it's because the squad is trying to maintain their very liberal leanings. I think it's more of an anti-Semitic gesture, because I don't think that AOC, Tlaib, Presley, or Omar could ever support a candidate who chose a running mate whose husband is Jewish or whose wife would have been Jewish had he chosen a man. So I think that's a subtle dig to the anti-Semitism that has kind of reared its ugly head recently in the Democratic Party. Throughout the entire convention, nobody mentioned anything about any of the riots or any of the burnings and lootings and injuries that have occurred in many of our cities. Interestingly enough, people talked about peaceful protests, and there are definitely peaceful protests, but it doesn't stop there. There's plenty of instances that you can see on YouTube and through news stations where you see basically Portland burning, people getting beaten up in the streets, whatever. I mean, it goes on and on and on. Getting back to Joe's speech. Joe was cogent, which is great. He's maybe not as far along to senility as we may think he is, and President Trump might have to find another angle to kind of pounce Joe on. Thanks, Lisa, for mentioning that to me. But then again, extemporaneously in the debate, we'll see how Joe handles Donald. That should be interesting. Obviously, the Democrats are really pushing hard to get mail-in voting. I was watching the Chiron on the TV screen yesterday. They noted, I think, 981 cases of voter fraud that have drawn convictions. So, I'm still kind of heavy against the mail-in ballots for anything other than someone that actually asks for an absentee ballot and you get it mailed to you and then you sign it and send it back. But just sending 57 million, I think is the number they used, ballots, all registered vote is going to be fraught with fraud. People can argue about it. I think we can figure out a way to keep social distancing and still be able to have a fairly normal election. Keep the polls open longer, maybe start it a day earlier. Allow early voting, which I do in Florida. So I think there's ways to avoid the fraud or the way it looks. It'll look like fraud, even if it isn't fraud. So I think we could do something about that. Well, getting back to Uncle Joe. He was on point. I mean, as far as not losing his words, and I think he only stumbled a couple of times, which is probably less than I'm going to stumble through this recording. I know that Joe has, Joe's life has, he's had a lot of heartbreak. His wife and his daughter being killed years ago, and then Bo dying in 2016 or 2015, right before the election. However, I think using that as a sympathy point in the middle of his acceptance speech, it was a little more than was palatable to me. I guess people are going to love that and feel sorry for Joe, and it wasn't something that I necessarily felt positive about. And Joe has been accused through the years of plagiarism, and while it might not be plagiarism, I mean, many of his points for his platform are things that President Trump has already said he was going to do, was already doing. So repeating something that's been successful as far as until the pandemic reared its ugly head. I don't understand where he's coming from, and I'll get to those points in a few minutes. I just want to mention something that kind of several people, especially yesterday, Bloomberg and Biden in his speech mentioned the fact that Trump has lost control of the pandemic. I don't know how many people could, it's great as a Monday morning quarterback to judge what has been done or what could have been done, but when something like that kind of comes across your front porch, it's difficult to deal with, and I think anybody would have had trouble. Saying that Trump doesn't support the scientists or the group of scientists that are working with him isn't quite true. I mean, Trump does criticize or questions certain things, but I don't know any time that he's gone against any of his experts, and even the experts, when they testified in front of the House, said so. That the president has never told us to say something that we didn't believe, and Trump doesn't until recently go for the mask. Okay, that was even debated throughout the entire COVID episode so far, whether masks should be worn, shouldn't be worn. Did it protect me? Did it protect you? Does it protect me from you? Does it protect you from me? I don't know who to believe anymore, but be that as it may. Blaming Trump for the economy is also kind of dubious, because although the president is responsible, obviously, for the country, it was the governors and some of the mayors in the cities, both Democratic and Republican, I'm not going to point fingers, that were really responsible for closing industries, closing stores and businesses and things like that. And Trump kind of really fought hard to get as much money in small business loans and getting the payouts to people, the $1,200 checks. And I'm not thinking that the president could have done much. Anybody could have done much better. So I really don't think the president is responsible for the economy. And when you talk about the number of deaths or the number of cases, I mean, we're the third biggest populated country in the world, and we've done the most testing. So I would imagine we would have the most cases. The number of deaths is unfortunate, but states like New York, in my old hometown, Cuomo, and I'm not criticizing Cuomo, but he had 61,000 plus deaths, many of them senior citizens that he sent, back to nursing homes, that kind of corrupted the entire nursing home, so to speak, and caused more people than were necessary to die. Again, blaming Trump on that. Trump worked hard to get to get the medical ships and get the hospitals built and get as much. He talks about respirators all the time, to get respirators. Uh, from my understanding, we were left in the lurch as far as stockpiles, and I think there's blame to be cast on both sides as far as why the stockpiles weren't rebuilt over the last 3 years or maybe 8 years. I really haven't been following it that readily, because we haven't had many pandemics recently. But pointing the finger. Obviously, it's a election year. People point fingers when it's not an election year. They're going to point 2 fingers for an election. So that's understandable. So blaming the president, the only people to be blamed are the people that actually were responsible for the individual actions that occurred in their state or their city. And, that's where finger pointing really should end. Again, same thing with the, death, and the same thing with the economy, as I mentioned. It wasn't the president that asked the businesses to close, but the president did work with Steve Mnuchin, to get as many small business loans as possible, and him and the SBA. So, again, some of the things that were brought up were, dubious at best as far as believability. Now, people will believe stuff because that's what they want to believe, and the person that they like says it, so therefore it's true. So let's go down the list and talk about the platform. Lowering the price of prescription drugs. I think the president has been president. Everybody's been trying to do that for years. Presidents from Obama and before him, Bush and Trump, with his executive order that forced the lowering of prices. Bringing drug manufacturing into the United States. Biden says, oh yeah, he'll do that. Well, Trump's trying to do that as well. That's something that Trump has said he wanted to do. American jobs. I love President Obama, but he's the one that said, what magic wand is going to bring back jobs. Many of these jobs that we thought were dead have come back. And the president is wants American jobs. So certain items on the platform like these are just items that have been repeated over and over again. Something that troubles me as well is the president, the vice president, talking about lowering the cost of medical care, health care. Obamacare was a great idea. It sounded good on paper, actually, but from my perspective, my premiums in Obamacare, I was in Obamacare for 3 years, double every year. It started at $60 a month. I'm a single, on a bronze plan. Went to $120 a month the next year, and the third year went up to $240 a month. I was not able to keep my own doctor, and I was not able to keep my own plan. So, those are things that were supposed to occur that didn't happen. President Trump has said from the beginning that he would not sign any health care bill that did not protect people with pre-existing conditions. And the reason I bring that up is the vice president brought that up yesterday as an acceptance speech, that that President Trump is trying to destroy pre-existing conditions. And you know what? If McCain would have given a thumbs up instead of a thumbs down to kill Obamacare, we might have seen if President Trump was honest or not about not getting rid of pre-existing conditions. But unfortunately, the bill did not pass, and until something else happened, until the president's reelected, we'll see if he does anything to healthcare, to do anything about pre-existing conditions. But again, he's promised hundreds of times not to sign a bill that did not include pre-existing conditions. So these are things that the president and Biden agree with. I'm a few. Jill Biden was fantastic. She's a joy. How else can I say it? She's a joy, great woman. He's happy to have her. He should be happy to have her. President Obama was not his usual upbeat. All he did was slam Trump. Now, look, obviously the two of them have not had a great relationship. Trump is a birther, forcing Obama to go for his birth certificate and prove that he was born here. Okay, pricky move. I mean, that some people are like that, but that doesn't mean that he can't be a chief executive or a good businessman, and that's what Trump is. He's a decent businessman. He runs the country as a business, and so that's the big difference between somebody like Trump, who's never been a politician before this term, and Biden, and Uncle Joe, who's been a politician since he's 29. So, the Republican convention starts tomorrow, or starts Sunday. We'll check that out and get back to you. Not gonna pick sides right now. I mean, let's see what the Republican convention has to offer us, and I will check in with you guys, maybe sooner, but definitely after the convention. And have a great day. Subscribe to my channel if you'd please. I'd appreciate that, and also hit the bell to get notified when I do post another YouTube. Have a great day, guys. Peace.